with the Patient-Centered Primary Care Collaborative. And thank you for joining us today with our webinar that is concerning our new website we launched on the 18th of March, a soft launch, and today is our formal entry into the market. And what we're going to go over today, I am going to give a brief overview on a number of sections on the website, and Sandy Ma will talk about site development and the architecture, and we will also hear from Lauren Vandegrift, who is our webmaster. And then we'll have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. And so if everyone will please just look at the website with us through the webinar and not go to the website separately, because if we have hundreds of people on the website at one time with all of us, in addition to that, then we could possibly slow down the webinar today. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I'm going to turn it over to Sandy Ma, and she's going to talk about the process that we went through to build the new website. And we're very thankful to a grant that we received from HRSA via the American Academy of Pediatrics to build a new patient-centered medical home website that is a national resource center on this particular topic. So, Sandy, I'll turn it over to you now.
Well, thank you, Edwina. And on behalf of Health 2 Resources, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be part of the PCPCC website redesign team. Also, I want to just mention briefly, if you are right now logged on to the PCPCC website, go ahead and move off of that, because activity on that website will slow down what we're doing here as we walk you through the website. We're going to do some live walkthrough, and we want to be able to keep the speed up. So if you would just join us, that would be the best. Also, as we go along through the webinar, please feel free to submit questions that you have in writing via the chat box, and we'll get to those at the end of the webinar. We've set aside that 20 minutes so that we can all answer the questions that you have, and we'll get back to those then. Well, today I want to offer kind of a mile-high look at our redesign process so you can better understand why we chose this structure and ultimately how it all works for you, the user of the website. We started out with a user survey. We surveyed the PCPCC membership back in October 2009, and we sent out thousands of surveys. We had 215 surveys returned to us, and we found out some interesting information from those surveys. We learned that we're really looking at two broad user groups. The first group is a small but active group, the volunteers mostly in the PCPCC centers. They come to the site very often to get meeting agendas, to check on their center calling materials, look at announcements, presentations, so they're accessing the site very frequently. Then we have a very large group of users that are not actively involved in the PCPCC yet. They visit the site fairly infrequently, really about maybe once a month, and they're seeking more general information about the patient-centered medical home and the topic itself rather than just the PCPCC. So we were looking at two user groups, and we had to learn how we could best serve both those groups with one website. So the next thing we did in our requirements gathering step was to ask the leadership of the centers, who are those active users, what kind of functions they wanted to have available through the site, how they wanted to use the site, how they wanted to interact with the information that was there. So we had calls and focus groups in November with the leadership of the 5 centers. We gathered a lot more information about what their wants were, what their needs were, and what their desires were for the website. And they told us what they liked, and they told us what they didn't like so much about the older site, and they gave us a wish list for the new site. So moving from that, we went to the website design. That was a process that took a while. We had to do the copywriting, technical programming so that we could get a lot of those functionalities online based on the user survey and on that center leadership focus group information. And we designed a site that would be an informational gateway for infrequent users and a workspace for the center. So that's how we ended up pulling together the site that we have. And then, of course, January we spent with the site build, the copy editing, quality inspection. We did user evaluations of the site. We took that input and we tweaked the site even more. And we did some orientation of the center leadership, those frequent users. We did some use case testing. Finally, we did the quality inspection, user evaluation, orientation calls for the center leaders so they would best know how to use those workspaces that we had created in February. And we did our soft launch in March 2010. So that's enough about the process. Let's go to the space itself. We're going to move to the website now. And again, if you are logged on, please log off so that we can go through our tour with some speed. We set several goals for the redesigned site. Just looking at the site right now, you can see that we wanted to create a lot of points of entry on the site. And so we have the different areas where you can enter as a user to the site. So these would be the people that don't use the site with as much frequency as others. And then we have other portals as well for our centers, and they're located here on the left-hand side. And we'll talk about that in a little more detail. We wanted to create a site that was scalable. The original site grew organically, and we added and added and added until it became a little more difficult to find the information you want because it was so layered that we couldn't get to things very easily. So we set a goal for ourselves that anybody coming to the site seeking information should be able to find that information in 3 clicks or less. And so we used a lot of information here on this home page where we have accessibility points. For instance, you can join meetings and you can find things pretty quickly as far as schedules are concerned right from the home page. But also topically, we stacked things that were focused on the strategic goals of the PCPCC so that as information was added that related to those strategic goals, it could easily be found located in there. And then everything that is on the site is also tabbed and reset in our resources section. So a casual user of the site can go to the resource section, or they could use the more robust search function that we have here. And they could search and find the information with a lot more speed than had been previously available. This is our main goal because what we heard in the surveys was, I can't always find the information that I'm looking for. So we wanted to structure a site that was easily accessible from more than one point of entry, any information a person could need. Now, let's go back to these portals. Across these are stakeholder portals. We identified our stakeholders from the interaction that we had. We have people who come from pilots and demonstrations, consumers and patients, employers and health plans, providers and clinicians, and federal and government workers. So just really briefly, I want to check into one of these portals, employers and health plans. And as we open that portal.
Sandy?
Yes.
Could you shift your window to the left slightly, because we're getting cut off on the right-hand side, so we're seeing about 85% of the full website.
Okay, I am full screen, so I'm not exactly sure how that will work, but I'm going to go less than full screen and go to the left. Does that help?
Yeah, that would help a lot. Yeah, we just cut off by about 15%.
Okay, I have done that. Can you see now?
It's catching up. I think a little bit more.
All right. Does that help? How's that?
That is perfect. We can see the whole thing now. That's
wonderful,
perfect.
wonderful. Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you, Lauren. No, not at all. These are the Employers and Health Plans portal. And as you see, we start out with the pilot projects because we know people want to see where the pilot projects are. And that's one of the key things that's on the page. You'll also note that in our copy, we have a way to clue in and get people attached to being involved through the Center for Employer Engagement. And they can click here and they can join that. And they can also click here and get involved in that center, and they can get involved over here. So what we're trying to do is encourage greater involvement with the PCPCC through the website. Key resources that are related to employers and health plans are also here. We were asked to have a quick poll available, and so let's see. If I vote on this one that my company uses, value-based insurance design, I can vote, and I can get quick polling results for that. Let's see how that. And let me scroll down so you can see our poll. Lots of people are using value-based insurance design according to the quick poll. Now, the other thing is that some of these areas on the left have stayed the same, and the section at the top of who we are, what we do, and how we operate stays static, as does the resource section. But the employer topics are directed for employers. And these were topics that, through our focus groups, we found employers were most interested in seeing. So going back to the home page, that's one of the portals across the top that we just visited. I want to show you quickly how to visit our center portals. You can do it through the drop-down menu here at the top. Or you can scroll down. Every page shows this marvelous graphic on the left that has our interlocking puzzle pieces that represent how the different centers work together. If you click on any of these centers, you'll also go to their portals. So this is the Center for eHealth Information Adoption and Exchange. They also have a quick poll. They have a link to the pilot project page. They have their key resources that are, and one of them is an instant download to the Meaningful Connections report, which is their most recent resource. Of course, everybody wants to find their schedule as quickly as possible. There's the call-in number and the access codes to the weekly calls. And also, this center has task force groups that you can access quickly. I want to also show you that the left navigation has changed a little more for the center portals because, again, these are the workspace for the different centers. These are designed for the people who are actively involved in volunteer work for the PCPCC to be able to get in there and get the job done. So their mission is what's on the left. It's the mission of the center. The goals and tasks of the center is here. A way to join the center is here, of course. And then the center leadership. I want to show you this because I feel it's important. We were told one of the things that people want when they get involved with PCPCC is see who else is working in the area where they're interested. So as you see, when you go to leadership, you can see Jim Crawford, who's our wonderful co-chair of this center. There's his picture, and there is his email. So users can directly contact him and ask a question about getting involved or any other questions they may have. And, of course, the rest of center leadership, as you scroll down, is also available here. And their task group leadership is also, the contact information is here. So those will go straight to email to reach those people because we felt like it was important for folks to work together to know who they were working with. I encourage you after the call to go through each of these different portals has their own look and feel. For instance, pilots and demonstrations, you're going to see a large chart here of all the different states. And if you click on any of these states, you'll find the demonstration projects that are in their states. Lauren's going to go over a great deal more detail how that works during his segment in today's presentation. And also, I'd like for you to go through and look at the center leadership because each of those areas is a workspace designed just for those people to use and to help you, as a visitor to the site, get more involved in the Patient-Centered Primary Care Collaborative. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Edwina, who is going to be taking you through some of the key areas on the homepage.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. That was very informative. I even learned a lot. So I'm going to talk about the sections that you see on the homepage, basically down the left-hand side. I'm going to start with, under sections, who we are, and Lauren's going to take us to who we are. And here on the homepage of who we are, if you click on those words, then you can see a very good background about the Patient-Centered Primary Care Collaborative in our 501c6 trade association. And then if you scroll down, we talk about our 501c3 foundation. Gives good background about both of those. And then at the bottom of both of those sections, you can find some of our important documents, like, for example, there is our basic brochure, our strategic plan. It's included here. A really updated general PowerPoint presentation that we have right there on the website for people to take our names off, put their names on. It's not PDF, so they can change it. And our IRS letter and things of that nature. And then if you look at the drop-down, we have a section on our membership and our leadership and a little more details about the Patient-Centered Primary Care Collaborative. So we get into our different levels of membership, our general membership, and also our executive committee membership, how that works, the benefits of the executive committee and the benefits of the general membership. We also have the history here, and then under the leadership section, we go into details of our board of directors. And if you scroll on top of people's names, actually their photos and their bios are included behind all the leadership on this page. So for the board of directors, for our officers, for our 5 centers, there's a lot of information behind each person's names with regard to, we've got their contact information. So we like to be very accessible and very transparent. And then we have a little section about some videos. There's a few videos that the collaborative has made generally about patient-centered medical home. That's under the video section there. And then moving on to our next major topic under sections, which is the second topic, what we do. And the what we do section basically defines patient-centered medical home. And here we talk about the underlying joint principles that were drafted in February of 2007 by the 4 Primary Care Physician Trade Association. We talk about all of the endorsements for those joint principles, everything from the AMA to specialty physician groups and inclusion of nurse practitioners. So all of that is under the What We Do section. So if you are interested in finding out more details about patient-centered medical home and not the collaborative per se, then you can see here we've got the joint principles. We've got Understanding the Medical Home, which is a really good animated video that was produced by ME Solutions. We'll be coming out with a new one in a number of weeks where it's going to be in Spanish, so you'll be able to find that on the website also. And it's very clear that this video is for the taking. Providers can download it and put it on their website. So that's the What We Do About Patient-Centered Medical Home section. And there are a few other videos also at the very end of that section. And then how we operate the 5 centers, that was covered thoroughly by Sandy. And then we've got the Get Involved, Donate section, which is the last one under sections. And that's very important because groups can just go there and they can sign up and become general members of the collaborative. There isn't any cost associated with that. They can receive all of our materials that way. They can be listed as a supporter, as a member of the collaborative, or also groups can sign up to get all of our information and participate, but maybe they don't want to be listed anywhere. So you've got those 2 choices there. We also have a donation section. If someone's interested in making a contribution, you just put in the dollar amount that you're interested in making to our 501c3 charity foundation. And then moving down to the next section, under topics, there are a few categories there that I'm going to go over, and I'm going to leave a few for Lauren to cover. So the first one is behavioral health, and that section is the results of a task force that we've been running for about a year now, the Behavioral Health Task Force, which is all about integrating behavioral health into primary care. So it covers everything from depression that you see that comes along with chronic conditions to substance abuse issues to bringing primary care to folks that have more severe mental health problems. And we have 2 sponsors here for this particular page and section that has helped us gather all this information. We pulled together stakeholders. We identified the thought leaders in this area and the resources. And now we have a wonderful section. This is new, never seen before, a lot of original research and material here in the behavioral health section. And then we have building the team. We've got some good information there, but we're planning on having a lot more information in that we're getting ready to start a training of the Patient-Centered Medical Home Workforce Task Force to gather additional information and put it on the website. Under care coordination, we have some good general information, and then we have some very in-depth information from one of our task forces on medication management in patient-centered medical home that's under the care coordination section. It's a very similar process in that there's a task force. They identified the top stakeholders, the thought leaders, all the available resources, did some original research, put together PowerPoints that everybody's free to use on this particular topic, and guides and toolkits. So all of that is under care coordination. And we have a health information exchange section. We have workforce development and reimbursement reform, all very robust section. We've got legislative policy. Lauren, let's have a look under legislative policy. And under there, of course, you'll find the activities of our legislative committee. You'll find their goals. And you will also find information about health care reform that was just passed and signed by President Obama a couple weeks ago. We thank the membership for helping us, for everything that was included concerning patient-centered medical home. We also detail what was included in the health care reform legislation concerning patient-centered medical home. You can see kind of a section-by-section guide there. So we keep the website up to date. Every week or so, we all sit down and we add any new rich content that we have. And then we have an evaluation evidence section for patient-centered medical home. And under that section, you will find a lot of the pilots that have been operating for several years, the ones that have reported results. You can find the Mercer documentation on the famous Medicaid program in North Carolina. Also, you can find a document that details more than 10 pilots and the outcomes, the improvements on quality, and the cost savings that are there. And as they continue to report their good results, we will include them in this section here. And then we have a consumer section about partnering with the consumer, and we've got good resources there from the National Partnership for Women and Families and other partners that are in our consumer center. Now, moving down to our resource section, I'm going to talk about a few topics under the resource section, and then I'm going to leave the rest of them for Lauren Vandegraaff. I want to point out to everybody that we do have a master schedule. You can go ahead and open that, Lauren. Very important. It talks about our meetings that we have planned, where they are, the hotels that we're going to be using, hotel discounts, and then we go through all of 2010 and our whole complete call schedule. We do a call every Thursday, our National Thursday call at 11 o'clock in the morning, 15, 20 minutes with an agenda, quick overview of everything that's going on with regard to patient-centered medical home, in the press, what the centers are doing, what's happening on Capitol Hill or with CMS, etc. We also do audio briefings once a month for folks that are new to this topic. And then we detail the center activity and the task forces, like we talk about behavioral health when their calls are, payment reform, and the call-in number is basically the same for all these calls, and it's all listed right here. So if you're confused and it seems like too many calls, you can just pick the ones that you're interested in and put those on your calendar. Then we have a Contact Us section where we can go and have a look at that. And believe it or not, we get probably maybe about 10 emails a day through this Contact Us. We've got information here. If you're with the press, you can go ahead and contact our PR firm, Katie Capps, with Help to Resources. You can see that there. And then we've got our phone number. We try to be very accessible. And then we have an easy, quick way to shoot us a question, and we're looking at those every night. The easy ones, we answer them right away. The more complicated ones, it might take us a few days or maybe even a week to answer the more complicated ones, but we do a lot of referrals. People might email us and say, are you aware of any activity with regard to patient-centered medical home and the employer community going on in Northern California? And then we will email them back, and we will bring in 4 or 5 people that are running our Center for Multi-Stakeholder Demonstration that's really keeping up with on-the-ground activity, and then we'll have a chat among ourselves. So if you ever have a question, feel free to use that process, or you can just email me directly. Lauren's going to talk about the webinar section and the event and speaker section and the links and the publications and the resources and how to participate. So I pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover, and also Lauren's going to talk about the home page and the features of our newsletters and our agendas and how they work and how they're very robust and rich with content and how you can search them. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Lauren Vandegraaff, and he will walk us through the remaining sections of the website, and then we'll move on to any questions that anyone might have.
Great. Thank you so much, Adorna. Yeah, I'm going to go through a few of the nuts and bolts of the website in terms of some of the more robust features in terms of things you can do to interact with the site. The number one thing being logging in and registering for the site. I'm sure most of you have made a username, whether you were registering for one of our meetings or for adding to our newsletters. Pretty much everyone has a username, but if you haven't yet, I just want to go through creating an account and then some of the features you can use of the site that require you to have an account. We do that for instance, if you're editing or adding a pilot, we can see who's doing it, so we can make sure that the right people are taking care of each pilot. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a little demo account. My name is Lauren Vandergrift, so I'm going to go through and put in my information. It's all very straightforward in terms of, we don't make anyone do any of that validation or, activation emails. It's all pretty easy. None of this information gets shared with anyone. We just have it on our record, so if we ever need to call you when you register for an event or if anything is ever purchased or donated, just so we have that information on hand. And also at the bottom of the screen, we got all this stuff already filled out. There's a newsletter section where you can subscribe to begin with. You can always subscribe and unsubscribe in different places later, but to start with, we just have everyone automatically subscribed to the main, our main mailing list here. And so we create your account, and hopefully, if all goes well, we'll be logged in. Great. So here we are, kind of on your account screen. So it's kind of hidden down here below these maps. You see, you kind of have an account that has kind of a record of the subscriptions that you have. These subscriptions are the newsletters or the agendas, as we've been referring to them. And you can, the features right now are, you can change some of the more detailed features if you only ever check emails in your BlackBerry and you want to receive them in plain text, or you want to upload your photo or anything like that for potential additional features in the future. That's kind of the big area for editing and dealing with your username. But what this does, now that we're logged in, that's my picture. It's actually kind of a bad picture. I may not know why I chose that. But if you go to participate, which is the subscription form for kind of the mass subscription form for the whole site, this is where we have a series of newsletters that I'm sure many of you are subscribed to for each of our centers, our task forces, and other such things. So if you go to the participate page, if you're not logged in, you'll be prompted to enter your email along with your choices. But if you are, you can update your selections. So earlier, I logged in and registered only for this main PCPCC mailing list, but I can see with my key here that SAHIA is the Center for eHealth Information Exchange and Adoption. So I want to sign up for that and the CMD because I find that fascinating. And I can update, and now my email will now be added to those lists. And then if I choose to unsubscribe later, I can do the same thing. I can go and I can unsubscribe. I can even go to down here we are on the home page. We have kind of a quick link to the various agendas, and I can go and unsubscribe myself if I'm logged in the same way from various points throughout the site, trying to make it as easy as possible to stay in touch or be able to unsubscribe easily as well. Then the next section, and has to do with the being logged in for the username, is this pilots and demonstrations that Sandy alluded to earlier. Basically, people really wanted one of our big goals for the new site was to make sure that we could kind of have an ever-running index of all the major pilots that we were interacting with and that were springing up around the country. And doing a publication every year just wasn't enough because the demand was great. So we created a way for people to edit and add pilots on their own. They're all moderated. So if you go through and click on any given state, you'll see that you'll be given kind of an index of all the various pilots. New York State is one of our more popular. And you can see in more detail the pilots. And as we go, things will be evolving. We've just launched this, so we don't have any extended information. But the idea is as this feature becomes more known, more people will come and edit their own pilots and start to add information and content and keep it up to date, which is something that is lacking at the moment due to all the fact that there's no web solutions. So I just wanted to show you briefly how you would add a pilot if you were interested in that as an idea. Underneath the pilot map, there is an option to add or edit a pilot. To start by adding, it's at first it's a bit of a daunting series of forms, but luckily none of them are fully, only the name and the state is required because we know that people have much larger and smaller pilots, and so we just want them to be able to give what information they can, hoping that as they learn more information, they can add it later. So I will do PCPCC demo pilot in the District of Columbia, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just to give you guys an idea, choose the region, and you can even add an image if you choose, or have anything that is remotely You can upload an image. So just so we can give an idea, so we can start to really get a feel for the location, the area, anything that we want, and then you can go through and edit the image kind of all on the fly here, just to give a kind of visual representation. And then again, we have all the information that you can see and browse in your own time to enter for the pilot. And I'm going to scroll down a long way here and save a message. We have a log message here so that people can give our administrators that are approving, saying what they did. I, of course, did not give the convening organization. But had I, it would have stepped through and been completed. And the same goes for editing a pilot. So I'm going to just quickly, I know this is a sort of tedious process, but if I go to edit the pilot, I can either click on the pilot itself, if I'm here, or I can go to the pilot map and choose to see a list of the names of the pilots that I can then edit. If I see something wrong or I want to update my numbers, let's say I'm the Wellstar organization, I can edit it. And here we are. All the information is pre-filled. We just update it, and then we'll get a note saying that whichever user has requested to change these fields, and we have a team in place with the CMD and the PCPCC staff to make sure that that gets updated as quickly as possible. And then the last couple things to show you guys are the webinars. We've been doing a series of webinars about monthly, some with the SAHIA group and others on more general topics where we have speakers come in and give presentations. And it's an ever-evolving section, but I find a lot of people are missing it, and it's a pretty great resource. We're going to have a lot of more streaming videos so you can view right on the website or download the source files, and all the source files they've provided, so long as they're accredited, are free to share and pass the information around, because it's definitely our number one goal is to get the information out there. So yeah, the webinar section is going to be evolving, and hopefully people should stay in touch with what's happening there, because it's pretty exciting. And then lastly, just the last two sections, is the events section, which is the events and speakers under the main resource section here. And that is place. We have this upcoming webinar. This is just our temporary imagery until we get the actual professional imagery later for our July event. And then just more information where we can get the agendas and the presentations from our past events, see speaker lists if you're interested in getting someone to speak, to know the topics that they are good to speak with, and other events. We've started a little image thing. As we get more images for each event, we've been having photographers come. We're going to try and build a really comprehensive kind of visual gallery to kind of show what these events are like for people that can never attend. And then the publication section, lastly, I'll end with, is publications and resources is the place where all of the pages. I don't know if you've seen at the bottom of these pages, there's been these files linked to the bottom, just related resources to behavioral health or to care coordination. And those, as we update and change them, they all get compiled in this page automatically. We have all of our publications here that you can sort through and really see. There's our new value-based insurance guide. So while these exist on the different center pages, they also are all here. So if you ever need to quickly access a lot of content, you can. So here you see our various topic areas. You can see all of our attachments for each section. There's our evidence documents, medication management. There's a lot of direct access to documents. But at the same time, we have the key resources for the centers also on the right-hand side here, as well as some of the government key links and stuff like that. Then down below, there's people often ask, they're wondering where, we had that talk 2 months ago with the CMD, and there was an attachment, and they always are asking us to try and find it. So this is an effort to help people with that. It's basically the attachments for each call. So you see there's the CMD call from March 2nd. There's the agenda, and you have the PowerPoints that were associated with that call. February 2nd, again, here are the bios for people, so people can go in and get the information as they need it. So the resource section is ever evolving and changing, and definitely once you become more of a power user, it's the place to go to quickly access what you need. And then also we just have an ever-growing link section, which we hope that you can, if you want to send us more as we grow, we want to be able to really make a connection, because we're only as good as the connections that we have with groups. So as we develop relationships, we'd really love to add your links and categorize and really make this link section a portal for everything medical home related. So that's just the beginnings of what will hopefully grow with the help of everyone. And with that, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. If Edwina, do you want to take over in some of the moderation of questions? If you can't see, there's a question box on your control panel where you can ask questions that we will answer. It's all types, not spoken, to keep things moving along quickly, and we can answer any questions you have.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Lauren. That was very informative. Yes, so if anyone has any questions about the website or the content on the website, we really try to stress that everything that we have up here is available for other groups to take and use, especially under patients and consumers. We have a lot of patient-centered medical home consumer brochures and materials there. You can also find them on the center page for the Center for Consumer Engagement. I don't see any written questions. Do you, Lauren, at this time? I don't know if there's a way to unmute the people on the line if they wanted to ask oral questions. Is that possible?
We could mute people if you raise your hand. If you've successfully entered your PIN and you raise your hand, we can unmute you to ask a verbal question if you prefer, or a typed question. Either way, we can see. And yes, the webinar will be hosted on the website under the webinar section and under the resources so that people can view this later, and hopefully I'll break it up into chunks to focus on each section.
Well, and it might be that our consultants did such an excellent job of designing the website and executing the new website that it's quite easy to find the information that people need now. We have received a lot of positive emails from our regular users saying that they're very pleased with the new website. We did make sure everything that was on the old site got moved over to the new one with a lot of new, fresh content also.
I can speak to the criteria for the pilot, and I know you know a lot more than I do, but we are working on a document, a page that will go into the specifics of exactly what is required. But basically, we just encourage everyone to submit what they have, and we will kind of deal with each case in turn.
Yeah, so we already have a pilot that submitted their information, a new one that's just getting started in New Jersey just a couple of days ago. And we've heard from a lot of other new pilots that have come along and gotten started since the end of October when we did a survey and published our most recent written pilot guide. So what we will do, of course, we will send out a notice to the universe letting them know that there's now the interactive pilot guide site, and we can capture all the new ones that have gotten started since last fall and up to the future. And we will be capturing single employer pilots, single health plan pilots, and also the multi-stakeholder ones. So people are very excited about being able to go right to the map of the state that they're interested in and get details of the activity that's going on if they would like to join in. I think that it's pretty much clear, and the home page is robust. You can quickly get to the centers by the interlocking crosses down at the bottom, and also you've got all the history of the newsletters from all the centers and from the collaborative itself with our national weekly call that we do every Thursday. And I would like to thank everybody for participating today with our webinar to launch our new website. And if anyone has any questions or they have any content that they would like to add, whether it's an article or journal articles or any content, please just shoot us an email and we will try to get it up on the website. And so we appreciate everyone joining us, and we will go ahead and sign off. We will make this a permanent webinar on our website for new folks that are wanting to learn about how the website works for the Patient-Centered Primary Care Collaborative. So thank you very much, and we will be in touch. Goodbye.
Thank you.